Alright, so let's say we were given a problem like this. Find the focus and directrix if we know the equation already. So the first thing we want to ask ourselves is, well, we know that the focus and directrix have two different approaches in finding them, whether or not the graph opens vertically, the parabola opens vertically, up or down, or if it opens horizontally, right? If it opens horizontally, then our y is squared. And so that's what we see right here. We see that y is squared, so we know that this is going to be horizontally either opening to the left or to the right. And we'll talk about how we can distinguish between the two of those in a second. Can we find the vertex here? Because we know that for a horizontal parabola, the focus will have the same y-coordinate as the vertex, but the x-coordinate changes. The focus is going to be the x-coordinate changes h plus p, comma k. The k stays the same number as the y value in the vertex. And the directrix, well, we don't need parentheses, is just that that x value. X is going to equal h minus p. Alright? So if we can find the vertex and we can find p, after all, we do know that a is equal to 1 over 4p, right? This magical p, a is equal to 1 over 4p. Let's see if we can find h and k and p. This doesn't really look like it's in the form that we were given, does it? Alright, now I know some shortcuts because I'm really well versed in my algebra and everything, but if we simply, wanted to manipulate this algebraically so that we could see the form aligned with our notes, then all we would have to do is divide by -12 on both sides, right? Okay, that would cancel out these -12s. And so we would have x plus 2 is equal to 1 over, this is going to be negative 1 over 12 times y plus 7 squared. Okay, now I can see it. All I would do now is just subtract 2 from both sides. Minus 2, these will cancel, minus 2. So we have x is going to be equal to -1 over 12 times y plus 7 minus 2. And that wasn't too hard, okay? So we know that this is our h, and it's always, in the horizontal parabola, we got to be careful, remember? Almost made that mistake. This is y and k always paired together, and now this is our h out here. And in this form, this outside number always takes on the same number. Remember I was telling you guys about a bird in a cage? Whenever we're outside of the cage, then our coordinate is exactly what we expect it to be, -2. But if we're inside the cage, it's the opposite of what we expect in life. We don't expect to be in a cage. And these numbers are the opposite when we plot them on a graph. And this is our vertex. Alright, remember we had to switch our h and our k. They traded places. So this is our k value, and in the vertex it's the opposite. And this is our h value. Since it's outside, it's exactly the same. And so now we can just find p. We know that this is our a. Alright, so this 1 over 4p is equal to -1 over 12. Well, what can I do with this? Well, I can flip both sides, right? If 1 over 4p is equal to -1 over 12, then we could say that 4p is equal to -12. We just flipped it. 12 divided by -1 would give us -12. And now if we divide by 4 on both sides, we see that p will be equal to -3. Awesome. So let's put these numbers into the focus and directrix. Okay, if h is negative 2, then negative 2 plus negative 3. Well, let me do that to the side. Negative 2 plus negative 3. That's going to give us the x-coordinate of our focus, right? Let's just double check that. Negative 2 is h. P is negative 3 plus negative 3. Okay, we do have to add these, even though this is a negative. That's going to get us the right answer. Negative 2 plus negative 3 is negative 5. So I know the focus x-coordinate is negative 5. K is the same as in the vertex, and that is going to be negative 7. Okay? And the directrix is h minus p. So h is negative 2. And this is subtraction, and this p is a negative, but we want to keep all those negatives because we know that negatives will cancel each other out, right? So h is negative 2. Let me do my scratch work at the side. Negative 2 minus my p is negative 3. I can see that I will add the opposite. And so that's like 3 minus 2, which is 1. And this was my directrix, x equals 1. Okay. Now let's talk about whether or not this graph opens vertically or horizontally. Let's get a rough sketch in here. Okay? Here's an axis. My vertex is at negative 2, negative 7. We'll just say that's like somewhere right here. Negative 2, negative 7. Okay? My p-value is negative 3. My directrix is x equals 1. Okay? My directrix is x equals 1, which would be this vertical line about right here or so. Actually, if this is negative 2, then this needs to be a little bit closer. Right? Okay. So that's x equals 1. And then the focus would be at negative 5, negative 7. Yeah. Okay. This focus would be at negative 5, negative 7, about right here. Cool. So now you can definitely see that this parabola needs to kind of, surround the focus, and it will open to the left. All right? And we can always tell whether or not a parabola opens horizontally by noticing what is squared. Our y is being squared, so we know it's going to either open this way or the opposite way, left or right. But if p is negative, or if our a is negative, in this case our a was negative 1 over 12, if our a is negative, then we know it's going to open to the left. When p is positive, we know it's going to open to the right. Let's take a look at this next example, shall we? We shall. Here we have y minus 3 equals 1 over 10 times x squared. Alright, I see my x squared here, and I know it's going to open up or down because x is squared. And since this a is positive, I already know from the previous unit too that this is going to open up. Okay? So I know my parabola is going to look something like this. Awesome. Well, let's get this in the form that we like to see, our h and our k all on one side and our a. Let's add 3 to both sides here. When we add 3, that will cancel on the left, and it will be a positive 3 on the right. So now y is equal to 1 over 10 times x squared plus 3. Okay. So how can we find the focus and directrix? Well, for a vertical graph, we know that the focus and directrix are separated by a vertical distance, and that's going to change our y value but not our x. So the focus will have the same h as the vertex, but we take k and we add p to it, that magical distance. And the directrix is just y is equal to k minus p. Alright? So we got our equation in the form we like to see it. We know that, whoa, where's our h? I don't see x minus something in parentheses squared. Ah, but now I remember that means h has to be 0. Okay, cool. So the vertex We don't see an h, and so that means it's 0, comma, this k is 3. Alright? So now we have to find p. Okay, so if 1 over 10 is equal to 1 over 4p, see if I can do this clearly. If 1 over 10 is equal to 1 over 4 times p, then we can take the reciprocal of both sides. This implies just 10 now is equal to 4p. Okay? And so if we divide by 4 on both sides, then we would obtain p is equal to 10 over 4. And we can reduce that, divide the top and the bottom by 2. P is equal to 5 over 2. Awesome. Excellent. So we know what P is, and that's a fraction. That's not going to scare us, though, because we got those fancy calculators. It's great. All right. So H is the same H, 0. All right. K is 3. 3 plus 5 over 2. Well, 3 would be the same as 6 divided by 2. 6 plus 5 is 11, so this is 11 over 2. And again, if you were not able to follow that with the common denominator and everything, you can put that into your calculator, and it will give you 11 over 2. Awesome. And now K minus P. All right, K is 3. 3 minus 5 over 2, right? If I wanted to do 3 minus 5 over 2, then I need a common denominator to subtract with a fraction, and I can write this 3 as 6 divided by 2, right? 6 divided by 2 is just 3. 6 halves minus 5 halves is just 1 half. So we get that y is equal to 1 half. Alright, very good. And so we found the focus and directrix for a vertical graph. We found a focus and directrix for a horizontal parabola where p is negative. And I hope you enjoyed it. There's a lot of details here. You know, with your h and your k switching, you definitely got to be careful, you know, and double check your work, especially with these horizontals, okay? And it's never a bad idea to draw a picture.